Welcome to the Tiger's Den. I am Toothless Tiger. Now, please bear with me. Now I'm behind. I do not know what is happening with this system today. Come on, feedback. But I promise you, I have a beautiful show for you, and it is going to go on. I may have to go out and come back in. Our guest is worthy of it. I don't know what's happening. I prepare every time it's time for me to go live. But as Murphy's Law would have it, whatever can go wrong does go wrong. But I'm going to figure it out. So just give me one moment here because I can't be delayed, nor will I be denied. What about now? How does it sound now? Okay. If you guys can hear me normal, like you're supposed to, put a one in the chat for me. And I want to say again, welcome to the Tiger's Den. I am the voice of Cheryl, and of course, Toothless Tiger. So could y'all put a one in there for me if you can hear me? If everything is going okay? Thank you, Moonlight. Okay, I'm going to do it a little different because I got my guest waiting in the back, and she was kind enough to give us her time, so I don't want to keep her waiting too long. But I got to give her the announcement that is due her. I want to just let everybody know I'm going to say salutes right now. The only time I will interrupt is when someone give a cash app or a super chat. I will just acknowledge the gift that you donate. Other than that, I'm going to say all of my salutes to everyone that's here, and I'm going to allow her to do the majority of the talking. So again, thank you and welcome to the Tiger's Den. LL Smiles, salute. Trinity T Awareness, salute. RLG, salute. Glad to see you. Maria S, salute. Moonlight, salute. Miss Mont Blanc, salute. JeNae, salute. Ernest, salute. Carolyn, salute. Levy, salute. Sebastian, salute. Meaty, salute. Ernest Beelan, salute. Okay, now let me tell you about my guest, the phenomenal Mrs. JeNae Johnson. Her mantra is, I rescue geniuses. Think about that. I rescue geniuses. This is the mantra and belief that JeNae Johnson operates as a leading consultant, starting with the premise that everyone has genius within them. JeNae equips leaders and teams with proper tools, guidance, strategy, and courage to accomplish their business objectives. A product and proud graduate of Howard University, JeNae, and that's in DC, y'all. JeNae has been selected for various leadership fellowships and incubators, including Leadership Houston Class 34. JeNae has consulted with various companies, large and small, including Chevron, Cisco, HM Claus, ConocoPhillips, Wells Fargo, and Shell. She has been featured on numerous podcasts, is a keynote speaker and was recently featured in the Houston Chronicle, and that's a big newspaper. JeNae has built a team of consultants, advisors, and data unlimited. I jumped ahead of myself. And data analysis who support the mission and work of CTM Unlimited and provide the highest quality service to clients. Now, y'all probably saying the way I'm messing up everything, how in the hell did JeNae get on my channel? Well, I'm honored to have her. I'm going to allow her to give you some reasoning as to how she got here. And please enjoy yourself, get pen, paper, take some notes, because she's going to give us some tips that we can use. As I introduce to you the illustrious, phenomenal Mrs. JeNae Johnson. JeNae, welcome to the Tiger's Den.
Thank you so much. I'm in the background just chuckling at the the introduction. I am so honored to be here. I don't know where you would love me to start, but I'm excited. So, as I told you, Cheryl, I'm here for you. So, whatever it is that you want to talk about, that you think is going to be important to your audience, I have to shout out your baby and my very good friend Greg is the reason how I got here. He was the one who put me on to your show in the first place. And Greg and I have been friends for over 15 years. And he's seen all facets of my life. He's seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And he was like, hey, you need to come on my mom's show. And so I was like, absolutely. For Miss Cheryl, I'm there. Like, say the word. So I'm glad to be here.
I am so honored to have you and just speaking with you and learning of your experiences. And like you said, the common denominator, the common denominator is Greg. Lately, I've been messing up words. I know I'm getting older, but
You
then when I
do.
heard someone younger mess up a word, I felt a little bit better.
There
But
you
I'm
go.
normally a stickler for words, so if you fuck up a word around me, I'm gonna correct you. And but now I have to correct myself, and it's so funny because I do it quite often here on YouTube, so they don't really know how bad I really was. But yes, you are phenomenal, and I don't say that lightly because of the things that you've overcome and the things that you've done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a few questions. I want you to feel free to touch on any subject you like, but
Okay.
I'm going to just ask you a few questions, and as you answer them, because I'm going to ask you to come back on a monthly basis and be our guest to help us, because I think that we can use you, especially in our community. We don't know of, I didn't, what a consultant is, what a consultant does, why would you need a consultant, and things of that nature. But I
Yeah.
used to always try to get my son, as you know, Greg, I call him Bill. I used to try to get him, won't you just start you a consulting for now? I don't know what it consists of, but with his knowledge and with the area of
I'm pretty sure
expertise
I said the
he's
same
in.
thing to Greg. I'm pretty sure I've said the same thing multiple times.
Yeah,
That
he
like,
has it. He has it, but
yeah, because he's
he'll keep
sharp.
learning from you, and
Hmm.
that's what matters, because we know that he will go get it. So we'll just see what
He
he does.
will.
But I'm going to start with my first question, and it is, in an industry that is predominantly led by European men, what motivated you to develop a consulting firm?
Yeah, I love that question because first of all, it's the acknowledgement that sometimes in this industry we are definitely on the island. Sometimes I'm in rooms where I am the only one that looks like me, both from a gender and race perspective. And so I think that's a part of the motivation. But just a little bit of background: I worked in corporate before I actually started a corporate consulting firm, and our firm primarily, I'd say 95% of our clients are working within corporations. So we really are a B2B company. We don't really do a lot of B2C work. And most of the companies that we work with are large organizations, and we're partnered with their particular leadership teams.
Okay.
But I also know what it's like to be on the other side of that. I know what it's like to be working in a corporate space where not only are you maybe one of the few in your space, but there doesn't seem to be any systemic advocacy for you.
Mm-hmm.
meaning that there are things that you see happening for people around you, and somehow you're excluded from that. Or you experience things that are happening to you. And even though you show up to be excellent every single day and you really are committed to your work, you don't understand why you're not getting your just due. And so, unfortunately, that is the reality for a lot of people who are not a part of the dominant group. Typically,
Mm-hmm.
the dominant group are white males in corporations. So, for me, this was not just about like sharing my expertise in certain areas to help leaders, but this is also about kind of having some backdoor way to advocate for people who look like me in these spaces.
Oh,
Because
that's
we're there,
fantastic.
like we are there, but we are also struggling
Yes.
collectively, even when we are in positions of power, even when we have titles. So we can be
Mm-hmm.
senior director, senior manager, VP. I've worked with some very high level senior executives who look like me, and these women are still struggling. They're
Mm-hmm.
still trying to overcome some of the same things that people who may be in entry level positions are also overcoming. So
And
that's a big part of the reason.
I think that's something we as a people don't even have a thought of, because we never pretty much get past the entry level.
Right.
A lot of us. And so when we see people in higher positions, we feel like they've really got it made, and they've really, but we really don't understand the concept and the pressure that they work up under. So that
Right.
was a great idea. My second question would be then, what were some of your fears that you felt, but you pursued your dream anyway?
Yeah, so I think the biggest fear when I first started out, knowing that I wanted to start a business, at the time I was a single mom. So I am happily married now, but I was a single mom for about 12, 13 years.
Okay.
And I had two children. In fact, you in your introduction, you talked about how I graduated from Howard University. And I did, by the grace of God, somehow. But I got pregnant at Howard twice.
Okay.
And when I graduated, my daughter was 11 months old and I was pregnant with my son. And effectively, their father, who was like my college sweetheart, you think you're going to be together forever with this person. But their father was like, you're on your own with
Mm,
these kids. And like looked me in my face and told me that while I was pregnant with our son. And unfortunately, even if he said it out of frustration or he just wasn't ready for the responsibility or whatever the case was, it ended up being true. And so I really was on my own. Sometimes he would kind of come back around, wouldn't, but I could not rely on him for anything consistently over the years. And so in starting a business, I was leaving teaching. So my first career out of college, I taught high school for
okay.
6 years. And after that, I transitioned into corporate, but very quickly knew that that was going to be a temporary thing. But even in that transition, like I had these decision points, Cheryl, where I had to decide like what I was going to choose and overcome that fear that you mentioned, right? So I had
Mhm.
to say, okay, yes, I have this fear of stepping out because I have two children that I'm responsible for, and there's no backup plan. There's no plan B. I don't come from a lot of money where my family could just fund our lifestyle, like none of that, right? So I was like, it's this or it's, I don't know, like there is no other plan. So that is a huge fear, just starting out in business and saying, like, this is not something I can just play around with. This is the livelihood and lifeblood for my children and being able to provide a life for them. I think the other fear was staying put. Like I really had a fear of what would happen if I didn't move on this.
Okay.
What if I didn't take the risk? That's
Hmm.
a fear too, because if I don't, then I knew that my earning potential and my ability to care for my kids was going to be very limited.
Hmm.
If I stayed a teacher, even staying in corporate, like my first corporate job, I worked for Waste Management, their corporate offices downtown Houston, had a great experience there, but I left to go take a contractor role that was not guaranteed because I knew that ultimately I wanted to have my own and I needed to work for different companies in order to do that. But
Hmm.
they weren't hardly paying me any money. In fact, side note, they tried to counter offer when I left and I turned it down. So and decided to leave and go on to do something else. So I think those were some of the fears of like trying to overcome that and then also trying to figure out what to do next. Cheryl, did I lose you? Because I don't see. Oh,
No,
okay.
someone walked in the room, and so what I did was just went off camera, so
You're
everybody
fine.
didn't have to see him walk in. Let me put some respect on this. I received 2 Cash Apps, so I want to respect. I want to welcome everybody that has joined us. As I stated at the beginning, I won't be calling out the names and the shout outs, but I see you. I shout you out, and my moderators will also shout you out. So I thank you, and I thank both of you for the Cash Apps that I received. And I have one more that I need to acknowledge. So please give me this moment. And I received that right before the show started. So I want to acknowledge her because she definitely acknowledged me. I love that you were talking about the fear of what if I don't move forward as well, because that's a good one. One of the reasons I never really pursued doing anything is because I didn't want the responsibility, and I felt like if I went for it, now today may be a different ball game, but when I was coming along, because we didn't have to, you needed an education, but it wasn't where you just would not get a job if you didn't have an education. And because I was able to talk and I love talking, I was able to talk myself really into literally any job I wanted to do. And so oftentimes I would turn down jobs because I didn't want the responsibility of the job. At the time, didn't even have a clue that I was born with a heart problem. And
Mm.
where I thought I was just a lazy individual, but it was all in my makeup and who I
Wow.
was. I didn't know it until after I gave birth to Bill. And that's when I found out that I was born with a third-degree heart block, a heart of an
Oh,
89-year-old individual. But it has brought me to 63 years, so I won't complain. Let's
yeah.
go to you because your story is much more interesting right now.
I don't know. I don't know. Your story's pretty interesting too. I don't know.
Yeah, I have some stuff, girl.
Yes, I know. I know.
What exactly does a consulting firm do?
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. I still don't even think my mama understands what I do. Like I don't think she gets it. I don't think most of my like can I just be real with you? Most of my friends they don't know. They just like
Really?
Janae got that company. They do some stuff and she always all over the place. But we know she got like 8 jobs. It's not 8 jobs. Like these are our clients, but people don't really understand. So the simplest way I can put it is that companies hire consultants when they identify a problem that they cannot solve themselves.
Okay.
That there is some kind of gap, right? And sometimes that's, hey, we can't solve it because we literally are so busy with other things. Oftentimes is we can't solve it because we don't have the internal expertise to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
So we bring in a consultant, and that could be for any part of business. So you bring in finance consultants and tax consultants. You can bring in HR consultants. You can bring in procurement consultants and supply chain. Like every aspect of business, you could bring in a consultant for. Specifically, what we do though is we really work in the human capital space. So
Mm-hmm.
that is all things related to people, and our focus is on helping companies build equitable systems. So, as you know, over the last 2 or 3 years, everybody has come out with, oh, we're going to do this around diversity, equity, and inclusion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we're going to stop being racist. We're going to stop suppressing Black people. We're going to, like I'm summarizing, but that's basically what they're saying, right?
True, true.
So they're coming out saying, they made all these commitments. So if you go back to 2020, there were all these companies that said, we're doing this, we're doing that. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna commit dollars to Black businesses. It was a lot of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now here we are, fast forward, we're halfway through, more than halfway through 2022. Some of those companies have made good on those promises, and some of those companies had an oh shit moment. Like, oh shit, we gotta actually do it.
Ah!
Like, we gotta, we gotta really do, we have to do it. And so what's interesting, Cheryl, what's happening is that now it's impacting their stock price. So
Okay.
now it's an imperative because what's happening is their shareholders in their board are now saying you need to show us where you are in terms of how you treat your people. You
Mm.
need to show us where you are in terms of how you invest your dollars in communities. And now it's a part of like investor relations is involved with all these big corporations. So now the
Okay.
big corporations are saying, like, oh, wait a minute, we can't just like act like we're going to do something. We have to actually do something now. And so then they have that other moment of like, oh, wait a minute, I don't think we really know what to do,
Mhm.
or we underestimated what it really took. Because effectively, based on their commitments, they're really saying we are going to interrupt systems that have existed since the existence of our company. And if the company's been around 200 years, the system was built initially to protect those in the dominant group and to preserve power.
Exactly.
Like that's how that system was built.
Hmm.
And so, where our company comes in, where CTM consultants come in, is we actually do a lot of the front end strategic planning with these leaders, and we do it from a position of sustainability and a position of equity, meaning
Hmm.
that when that leader gets promoted, goes to another company, moves to a different department, that system that we build in place is still there. It's
It's
not
still there.
people dependent.
Mm.
And our goal is always to build systems that are blind. And one of the things we say to them, like, we want to build blind systems, not blind people, because you
Okay.
need to see people. Like, you
Yes.
need to see the people who are, you need to appreciate who they are. And that's kind of the inclusion and belonging part. But the
Hmm.
system part is the equity part. So we're looking at how do you make sure that no matter what I look like and where I'm from, there is no longer some kind of statistical predictor that says how successful I'm going to be in the company. So the
Mm.
example that I use a lot is currently if you take JeNae Johnson and Bob Johnson, and let's say Bob is a white man and
Hmm.
I'm me, right? And we have
Mm.
the same background, same credentials, same education. We're coming into the company at the same time. Currently, we can statistically predict which one of us is going to be an executive in 10 years. We can't,
Okay.
because there's data that shows it's not me.
It's
It's
not
Bob.
you. Yeah.
Not because I'm less qualified, but just because the historical data shows that. So our goal is to start shifting these companies to where there is no longer a predictor in terms of who's going to be more successful. Could be Bob, could be me. But if the system is blind, it's not going to look at me and say, oh no, not you, black girl. You can't be an executive. That's not going to work for you,
Hmm.
because that's the people part of it. So our goal is always to remove the human error from what happens inside of these corporations,
Hmm.
and hiring, promotions, how people get promoted and developed, how they get put on special projects. That's just one of the areas that we look to tackle with our strategic planning. And then our teams actually partner with the organization to get it done. So here's the plan. We're going to help you with the plan. We're going to get your executives to endorse it. And then now we're going to give you resources to actually execute it.
Now you think that that wasn't amazing, and I have someone in the chat that said that you're absolutely amazing. But what's really amazing about it is because what I tell people, one of the reasons I came here was just to share my journey and who we were before we were slaves, or before we were called or told we were slaves. Slaves is actually a slang for Slovakian. It's not really a state of being, it's a people. And it's so
Mhm.
much they didn't teach us. And it's so much that we don't know, so we don't seek it. But I try to teach my people, our people, the world, that the war is not won on the battlefield. It's won at the board table in the war room where you
Mhm.
strategize. And I heard you speak of strategy a lot. And
Yes.
that's really something that I try to even teach the children. It's about using your mind. My nephew used to always say, don't use your use your words,
Mhm.
and then learn them. So what you said was just phenomenal. It was amazing, for real though. um my next question is, what are some of the adversities you have faced as an Asiatic female to land contracts with a reputable company, like with the big companies? May, before you answer that, may I
Yes.
just say hello, Matt K. I'm so glad you joined me. He is recovering from surgery. So I just want to say hello to him and
Okay.
salute everybody for coming. As I stated, I'm going to let Mrs. Johnson keep talking because I will be done took up her time. And we want every minute that she's willing to give us. And she's coming back, but we want all we can get. So get your pen and paper. take your notes, and thank you for the cash apps. And let's go, Janae.
Okay, so you're asking me about what I was overcoming to
Yeah,
actually get to work with these
when
companies.
you were trying to negotiate with the big companies, what did
Yeah,
you have to overcome to get those contracts?
so thankfully we have had, and I've had some really good business relationships over the years. And
Hmm.
so I'd say probably about 80% of our business currently is through referral. It's
Okay.
not because we have like a really robust marketing push. I'm active on LinkedIn when I feel like it. And then
Hmm.
when I don't feel like it, I'm not really on there, but I'll have like spurts and bouts where I'm like, oh, let me post some stuff on LinkedIn. But half the time I just share pictures of my kids because I got five of them. So I just be like, oh, let me tell you a story about my kids. But also, a big part that I've been focusing on in terms of LinkedIn is talking about shifting the narrative of what success looks like. So
Hmm.
my posts really aren't for people who look like me. It's for all people who don't look like me, who don't understand that you can have a child who's on the dean's list, who's in college, and you can also have a 1 year old, and you can be a CEO of a company. And that is truly my life story. So that's
Okay.
typically what I'm sharing. I'm not on, my point is to say I'm not on LinkedIn like talking about, oh, let me tell you what we can do for you. And so those business relationships have led to a lot of the work that we're doing right now, but also early on, just kind of getting connected to the right people. What I will say is, once we have those relationships in place and people are referring us, what I have to do often, in fact, we're in talks with a company right now where I have to do that, is talk to them about the challenges of minority owned, woman owned businesses. Because, mind you, they're trying to hire us to do equity and inclusion work, but their systems are broken. And so, the very thing that they're trying to hire us to solve, they end up imposing those problems on us to even get
Excluding y'all.
contracted.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, for example, they will have these crazy payment terms like, oh, well, once you submit the invoice, then you'll probably receive payment in 60 to 90 days. Absolutely not. So, often have to push back and say our payment terms are a max of net 30, meaning that 30 days from the time you receive that invoice, that is when we expect payment. And we write that language into the contracts. And
Hmm.
we've had to kind of come to a impasse with some companies because they will slow pay or not pay. And so I think there are other small businesses that I've heard talk about, hey, we just kind of keep working, and we're almost closing the doors and going bankrupt because you're carrying payroll for a whole team but not getting paid from the company.
Hmm.
And so for over here, it's a no. So I'm very firm in that no. I'm very firm in this is what it is. We write it into the contract. And whenever there is a challenge with payment, we go directly to there's whoever's in procurement, whoever our point of contact is, and our particular client to make sure that we are like our team is getting paid. Like you can't pay late, just like we can't turn in work late. So if you're looking for some content from us and we actually don't submit it, it's going to be a problem. In the same
Hmm.
way, I'm going to need our money when you said you were going to pay the money. And I feel like that part is definitely a challenge because whenever we're starting the conversations, we have a lot of like, well, this is kind of how we do things. And this is the process you need to go through for our vendor selection and all of that. And so I've definitely been in positions where we've jumped through hoops and then something stalls and we've invested time and money to actually start with a company, and
Hmm.
then for whatever reason they have something else that comes up. So I've just learned to be very firm on this is what we will do. I'm confident in what our team can deliver, but
Hmm.
that has been one of the biggest challenges, is just not getting the introduction but actually getting the contract in place in terms that actually work for our company.
That works. Yeah. And I find that I have a little video that I did called, adhesion contracts, and a lot of them will want to. And the adhesion contract is the person who's offering the contract normally get the best deal. So I'll use,
Mhm.
for instance, if you were buying a vehicle, or if you were buying a house or something of that nature, they put all of these stipulations and all of these, you can't this, you can't that, you can't this, you can't that, you can't this and that. And it's really very little wiggle room for you because you really don't have no say. And if you don't accept these terms, well, you can't drive out with our vehicle.
Right.
And so it's very hard to get people to understand that we do still have rights, and we have to learn to reserve
We
those
do.
rights. And
That's
so
right.
that's what I've learned to do in dealing with the contract. You got to reserve your rights, because if you don't, in law, anything that you don't oppose, then it becomes reality, and they call it tacit acquiescence. And you acquiesce, and once you go along with it, that's what that is. We're
Mm-hmm.
at the we have about 20-minute mark. So what I like
Okay.
to do is ask this last question. And as you answer this last question, then you can incorporate whatever you'd like to about the topic, because I'm going to ask you a question about being a mom. Hold on a moment. Somebody's coming in my room. I'm on the air. Okay. You know, they love me at 7 o'clock.
I see. You a hot commodity.
But we do that all the time. So it's just my sister or my nephew, and I love them both. And both of them take care of me. So really, I don't mind, but they try to tiptoe. They don't, want to interfere. Um, I wanted to ask you a question. When you were in college, what did you major in?
Communications.
Okay, that's why you're so excellent. Okay. I love a good talker. I really do. Voices, really, I love them, and it doesn't matter whose voice it is, as long as it's a beautiful voice. For some reason, it has always been with me my whole life. I guess because I was a talker,
Yeah.
and it's kind of hard. I guess most people think I don't hear anybody else's voice because I'm always talking, but that's not always true. I
Is that
could
the
say
feedback? Did you get that feedback from somebody?
I can say most of that. Well, trust me, that Bill Gates Jr., Gregory D. Searles guy, he keeps me in check.
I bet he does.
He keeps his mom in check, he thinks. But that's a whole nother story. I wanted to ask, okay, and I love the fact that you talked about, I want to say this before I ask the question, being a single mom and having the children before you got the degree, yet you persevered and got the degree.
Yeah.
And we don't know what motivates people to do what they do, but whatever it was that you had inside of you, I'm glad that you were able to reach inside and pull it out, because oftentimes they have us looking outside of us for the help that we really need, when all we really need to do is look within and then become whoever or whatever we choose to
Mm-hmm.
become. And I think that that would be good for younger parents, and even older parents, because a lot of us didn't get this stuff. It's like you said, your mom and them don't know exactly what you do. A lot of us don't really understand a lot of things that's happening, in this life, but we just
Mm-hmm.
go along because that's what we were taught to do. So
Right.
this conversation was so needed at such a time as this, and your smile is absolutely gorgeous. So
No,
I
thank you.
truly, 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 I'm honored to have you here. Now, my last question for you, and then you're going to take us on out, would be, and let me acknowledge, we got a new member. I have memberships now. I can get memberships and
Okay.
super chats and super stickers, and I got a new member. Yay,
Wow.
Trinity. We
Come
want to
on,
acknowledge
progress. I
that. I
love
hope y'all put the tiger heads in the chat. Put the tiger heads, please.
it.
And it is, how does owning and operating a successful business coexist with being an active, loving, and caring wife and mother?
Yes, yes. First of all, let me dispel some myths about, oh, it looks like you're doing it all. Like, and how I get the question often, how are you doing all of that? So just so everyone understands, I have a gang of kids. Okay, like it's a lot of them. So in total, we have 19, 17, 15, 4, and 1. Those are
Okay.
their ages. Okay. So I have one in college, I have one senior in high school, I have one 10th grader, I have a pre-K, and a little one that just started walking a few months ago.
Mm,
That's the range, right? So and our company, and I'm not a just a company of one or a company on paper. Currently, we have about 12 team members, both employees and contractors,
okay.
that work for us full time, and then we have some other people that kind of come in and out depending on what we need for the company. So there is a lot going on. I have an internal staff, etc. One of the things that I really do practice is what I call strategic mediocrity, because I'm gonna be mediocre at a lot of shit. That's like I am. I'm not great at everything. I am not.
That's great to know.
I am not great at everything. I'm like actually not great at a lot of things. Like I got a long list of things that I'm like, nope, not good at that. Not good at that either. That's not good at that. So what happens is I used to really try to I had this guilt about like, okay, so yes, I have this meeting right now and I need to do this to grow the business, but if I don't hold my baby, he's not going to know me, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or if I'm not available to talk to my son when he comes home from school every day, then it's going to put a wedge in our relationship. And so I really have started to look at what is the most important thing for my husband in our marriage, what is
Mm-hmm.
the most important thing for my kids,
Mm-hmm.
and what's the most important thing even in the business. And for everything else, it might be a no, or it might be a later, or it might be outsourced to somebody else. So even
Mm-hmm.
right now, it's 7:40. I'm in this meeting with you. This was important to me, but my kids are cared for because
Mm-hmm.
we have a part-time nanny that comes in the evenings, and we have a person who works during the daytime who does like all of our domestic stuff as well as homeschools our kids twice a week.
Okay.
So I am all about outsourcing, and even some of the things that I've learned is being comfortable with asking for help, but also being comfortable hiring help. A lot of
Okay.
times we feel like, oh, we can't do that. We got to do everything on our own. And sometimes it's not even about the money. It's about the
Mm-hmm.
stigma, or you feel like if we hire help, people gonna be counting your money. Newsflash, people gonna count your money anyway. So might as well, right? They gonna count your money if they think you don't have any. They gonna count
Mm-hmm.
your money if they think you have some.
That's true.
So you over here not getting help because why? Because you worried about what other people think? No.
Not
So
at all.
and I'll be honest with you that in a different time in life, I had people who would just come for a few hours. When I first started the business, I had an intern that worked part time because that's what I could afford to pay them. And as the
Mm-hmm.
business continued to grow, obviously I could hire more people and pay more people. Same thing as our household income grew, we were able to bring on help. But that is the way that I'm able to do it all, meaning I don't do it all. So
Mm-hmm.
all the stuff around the house, all the laundry and the cooking and the cleaning, I'm super mediocre at all of that. I have no spatial intelligence, so I don't really know where to put things and stuff. Not I'm not like physically organized, but I know that about myself. What I
Mm-hmm.
also know is that I have this connection with my boys. I know that my daughter FaceTimed me while we were in this meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Like she calls me all the time, like as if I have no job and nothing else to do. And she's in college, right? So she could
Mm.
easily not talk to me. And so
Exactly.
making time to FaceTime with her, making time to dance with Josiah, my 1 year old, this afternoon in between meetings. Like I stepped out of my office and he was out there doing something, and we were just getting it. We put on some music. And then I went right back in my office and finished what I was working on, and then left for an appointment. So behind the scenes, it's pure chaos. Like
Mm-hmm.
in the mornings, I'm running around, barely dressed, crust in my eyes, like trying to figure out pack lunches for the kids. And then, okay, what time is the nanny coming? And okay, Isaiah's got to be at school at this time. Like it's when I say it's pure chaos, but the thing is, our kids are loved. They know they are supported. They are
Mm-hmm.
safe. They are getting the best education that we can provide for them. They are getting the spiritual development that they need to thrive in this world, and
Mm-hmm.
those are the things that are important. Making
Yes.
sure that that stack of laundry that's clean but not folded, not important in the grand scheme of things.
Yes.
So somebody else gonna do it, or I'll get to it when I get to it. But that is the way that I'm able to quote unquote balance. And I'm be honest with you, it's not a perfect science. We get out of balance all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There are times when my husband and I just kind of look at each other like, oh, we must have been really crazy. Like, what were we thinking? What exactly were we thinking? Because like why? Like why we got all these kids? And I tell people all the time, listen, that little one, he's gonna need to get a job because the way that he eats,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, he's super cute. He got a bunch of dimples. We need to put him to work. So, Michelle, if you got a connect for like an agent that can
Well,
manage him, because he gonna need to bring in some income, right? His 4 year old brother too. They still young enough and cute enough where they can get some things done. But it's like we could live a whole nother lifestyle for what we pay just in childcare and support, but it's
Hmm.
necessary because I know we can't do it all. And
Exactly.
more importantly, I'm not willing to, nor am I buying into the narrative that I need to sacrifice my mental health and
Hmm.
be stressed out and dealing with anxiety and depression and anything else and not taking care of myself all in the name of being a super mom.
I
Being a
think
super
that's
mom
where a
is
lot of
for
us miss
like,
it.
yeah,
Hmm.
not doing it.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of us miss the mark because we're listening to an idea of someone else of what it's
Yep.
supposed to be like, as opposed to, even if you just look at what it was like for you growing up. Our parents probably didn't know the best, that's laid out on paper, but they
Right.
gave us the best that they had. And
Yes.
then when like you said, when you know that you're connected, because one of the things with me, I worked, for 42 years, but I was off and on working. And then when Greg was coming up, I was with a man that was a drug addict. And so I was like the Happy Meal mom. We had a very close relationship, but I dropped him off over to my mom's because I didn't want him to see the life that I was living. I didn't do drugs, but he did the drugs and stole all our shit. So I didn't want him to see
Mm,
that when he got ready to go ride his bike, he wasn't in there because the nigga done stole the bike and sold it to the damn neighbor. And thanks
Lord.
goodness, the neighbor knew that that was my son's bike and would bring it back and, give it to me. So I didn't want him to see all of that. But at the same time, I didn't realize that we wasn't spending time together, but we would be on
Mhm.
the phone. And then I'm a therapy mother. I believe in getting help. I believe in seeking help when you lose yourself and you're not who you thought you should be,
Yes.
or you're not who you know yourself to be. You start
Right.
accepting unacceptable behavior, more or less. But in our community, it's such a stigma for us to seek help. Like you have help coming in with the household chores. My mom was the help that did the household chores, and the people certainly didn't look like us. And
Mhm.
that's why I tell people I'm not stuck on Miss and Mister. That's not respect to me because I saw my mom call children Miss and Mister. And that was because of the time. I
Mm,
grew up at the end of Jim Crow, right
right.
before the Civil Rights Act. So that's not respect. Respect is if you speak to me, I speak to you, and we speak to each other with human kindness. That's the way I see respect. But well, I will say yes, ma'am, and no, sir, to older people because
Mhm.
that's what they're accustomed to. I would say that to the authorities because their position demands it. But just talking to, if I met someone that was 75 and if they cool like me, shit, I'm just gonna talk to them like me. If I meet them 90, I'll tell them. Now I'm a cusser, so I'm gonna try my best not to cuss around you because I don't want to disrespect you. But shit, I cuss, and it's gonna be awfully hard, but I'm gonna try. I told him my daddy cuss. I couldn't wait to get grown to cuss. I swear I couldn't. And Greg had permission to cuss at 10. And he wouldn't cuss in front of me until he turned 23. I used to get so damn mad at him when he tell me stories. I said, tell me what they said. And then they said the F word. What the fuck is the F word? And he was so scared of his mother, poor son. My son was really a good son, but he was so damn scared of his mother. He would, the F word. No, no, no. Tell me the goddamn word. I want to hear the word. The fuck word.
He probably was so confused. He like, in that, am I not supposed? I can say it. You
He
sure?
had permission at the age of 10, but he would never. It wasn't until he was 23. And then my sister that I live with here, she talked about, I believe y'all just get together to see who can I cuss each other. Now should he sound like me when he talking? If he's talking to me, we just have fun shooting the shit. But
There's something I wanted to not to interrupt you, Cheryl, but it was something I wanted to go back to when you talked about the therapy and getting help.
uh-huh.
So I'm also a huge proponent. In fact, the Black Girls Therapy Directory, I direct. It's called Black Girls Do Therapy. I think I'll get you the link so you can drop it in
Okay.
chat. But
Fantastic.
I always direct people there, particularly for women who look like me who are dealing with life, right? And
Yes.
I've always had a therapist relationship at various times in life when there's a crisis, but also when there's not a crisis. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I explained to you just a little bit of what my day-to-day life is like. And even my husband and I, we go to therapy and we're not in a bad place. We're not in danger of getting divorced, but we have to like work through challenges every single week, every single month. So we talk to a therapist a couple times a month to like really have somebody who has an objective perspective help us to navigate so that we can stay like we're good. We want to stay good, right? This is
Yes.
not like, oh, we're trying to save our marriage, but it's like we want to stay good. And then I even
Mm-hmm.
talked about my daughter Anaya, like, and we use an online therapy platform for her called Regain. So we
Mm-hmm.
use Regain for our therapy too. And you can find a therapist that's matched to you. You can put in different criteria, but she was having what I believe to be some anxiety attacks in her freshman year of college. All the pressure from all the things that were happening, both socially and academically, and she was having trouble coping, right? So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you call mommy whenever, I'm going to pick up the phone, but also
Exactly.
you need a trained professional that can actually help you. And so she currently sees a therapist every week, like
Oh,
clockwork.
that's
It's a
fantastic.
part, I mean, she's with her therapist, even in the summer when she was home, she would have her therapy sessions every single week because she got other stuff that she has to process through. As I told you, her dad has been out of her life, her biological dad. She
Mm-hmm.
has a really good relationship with my husband. And so that's her dad to her, but she
Mm-hmm.
still got to process that other
That
piece.
other piece.
Right.
That's
And
that's
that's a
really good.
part of what she works on in therapy because I
Mm.
want my kids to start doing it. My teenage son, he had a therapist for probably about a solid year because he was just real strange from like 14 to probably right at the beginning of 16. We
Mm-hmm.
were having all kinds of problems with him. I mean, he's so much better now, but I'm just saying that to say, like, if for everybody listening, paying attention, if you think that you need help, you probably do. If you think you don't need help, you definitely do.
You need help. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And see, that's one thing that I did because I believed in it. I kept Greg in some type of program. He
Mm-hmm.
went to Alateen, we went to therapy together, and we went apart because there are some things you might not want to share with,
Right.
your parents or people that are close to you. I find the biggest thing is to speak with someone that you're not going to have everyday interaction with, because
Right.
when people get angry at you, they tend to bring up those shortcomings that you revealed when you were having therapy and stuff, and that's not what it's about. It's kind of like, for me, what I learned, and if you're not careful and don't choose the right one, it's like you said, they need to kind of look like you so they can relate to you. Then
Mm-hmm.
you'll be sitting up there and you'll be the damn therapist, and then they'll be telling you all of
Yeah.
their damn problems, and
Yeah.
you're trying to solve their problems, which is not what it's about.
Uh-uh.
But on that note, we're winding down. You have given us your time. We greatly appreciate it. And as I spoke with you before, we will be asking you to come back. And then if the audience have questions that you can address, we have about, I say maybe about 10 minutes. So maybe in the next 5 minutes, you can just tell us, what if someone that's listening to you want to try to be an entrepreneur and they don't know how or what or how it should start for them or what they need to do? Can you give us maybe like a little 5 minutes of something before it's
Yes.
time for us to say goodbye?
Absolutely. So, first of all, I will issue this disclaimer. Entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I am not that business owner that's going to tell you that everybody needs to go into full-time business ownership. Do I think you need to have options in terms of your income? Absolutely. But there are all kinds of ways to do that, right?
Mhm.
I am not someone who's going to tell you, oh, you over here working for the man and what's wrong with you. No, because look, we're not all called to do the same thing. And
Mhm.
so sometimes your calling is right there where you are working, and that's okay. There are so many other ways to be smart with your money and to attract multiple streams of revenue that don't involve starting a full time company. So let me
Mhm.
just say that. However, if you are called to start a business, I think there are a couple of things that I have learned, even in the non example, right? So, number one, from the very beginning, make sure you document everything,
Mhm.
even the things that you think are like, well, why am I writing this down? Document everything, particularly on your financials. If you go buy a pack of pens for your business, and make sure you keep a log of what you bought, where you bought it from, keep the receipts, all of that. Because what's going to happen is, even though you're not making money yet, the minute you start making money, you're going to need to make sure your books are together. And when they're not, trust me, because I'm telling you from experience, forensics accounting, when they have to go and try to find stuff, it is very expensive to get an accountant to come in and actually update all your books from a year or two previously in order to get all your taxes in order. It is expensive. I'm telling you from experience, make sure from the beginning that you really start tracking. And I would say start operating as if you're going to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
If you truly believe that you were going to be successful, then you would start putting infrastructure and foundation in place to say, I know that this business is going to grow. So I'm not going to do things that only rely on me and are only looking at my business being exactly the same size as it is now 5 years from now. I'm going to start putting some things in place, even if I don't have the money to invest in those things yet. There are a lot of things that you can do for very free, for very cheap or for free, even if it's just in the planning, even in the infrastructure that I talked about. Maybe you can't afford QuickBooks or some other software right now, but you can open up a spreadsheet. You can open up
Mm-hmm.
Google Sheets and put all your stuff in there.
Okay.
Maybe you don't have a staff, right? But you can still have, listen, I used to have staff meetings and it would be me, and I would document what we talked about. You know, right? Like I will write it down because all of those things are important. I think the other piece is it is so important to be in imperfect action because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times when it comes to starting a business, you think people like if, and if you don't mind, Cheryl, I can take for example. You're like, hey, I don't have everything figured out with my YouTube channel. There's some things
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes it goes wrong, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But the fact is, you're showing up
Mm-hmm.
and being comfortable with that imperfect action. Because a lot of times
So
we
very
feel like
true.
our actions have to be perfect, and people do not. When I say they don't care about that, they care. Can you solve a problem for me? Are
Yes.
you providing value? Are you giving me insight into something? If it's not that, I don't care how polished your email campaign looks like. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care that your social media page isn't 100% how you want it to look. Can you solve a problem?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the biggest example was we launched a webinar series in 2020, right after George Floyd was killed, called Bold X Brave. And it was intended to draw a corporate audience to publicly talk about corporate racism.
Mm-hmm.
And when I put together that webinar, we launched it from the time I had the idea to the time of the first webinar installment. It was like 3 weeks, maybe 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have I had Zoom and I had some emails to send out. That's it. Like I didn't have it all together. And when I tell you that what we did 2.5 years ago, literally today is still paying dividends because it's still bringing us clients from
Mm.
doing something that I at the time I thought it was raggedy, but it was like it's necessary. So many people showed up because they had a need to have these conversations, and it wasn't just people who looked like us. I
Mm-hmm.
had old white men showing up. I had
Mm-hmm.
old white women showing up talking about how they never really understood racism until now, and they're ashamed of it because they're in their
Mm-hmm.
50s and they never had even talked about it. That they didn't understand how they were a part of the problem at work and acknowledge
Mm-hmm.
they were a part of the problem. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was the impact we were getting. So I learned to just be comfortable and improve over time. But I was getting in my own way and like wouldn't actually do things because it was like, oh, it's not perfect yet, so I can't release that to the public. So if you have a product, a service, an idea, a solution, I just encourage you to find out who it is that you are intended to serve
Mm-hmm.
and be in action, even though it's going to be imperfect at first.
Thank you. And I love you using me as an example because that is so true. And I didn't realize that I was such a perfectionist because of my I operate better in chaos, like the last
Mhm.
minute, and then I can get everything done. Everything is
Yep.
everywhere, but I know where it is. And so, that's so true. Every week I'm preparing my brother say, you should have this like this. And I really do. I have it all set up and everything, but it never ever sometimes goes the way I want it to go. On that note, JeNae, I want to thank you again. We will get
Welcome.
together and we'll set another date, but we know that you are willing to come to see us once
Yes,
a month.
ma'am.
Maybe we could do it like this is what the last Tuesday of the month, if that's okay with you,
I
according to
want to
your
commit on
schedule.
air.
Yeah,
I want to commit
no,
on air, but
uh,
I would
yeah,
love to do
according
it.
to your schedule,
Yes,
and then
ma'am.
that would be fine because I can work around your schedule. My schedule is open. It is mine.
Yeah, not as officer. That is crazy.
So I want to thank you, and I know the chat. Thank you, everybody's
Yeah,
raving
I'm seeing the
over the.
comments in chat. I
Yeah,
just want to shout out everybody who said thank you and gave me some kudos and compliments and shedding some love and light and fire emojis. And I saw somebody said like I needed this today. Thank you. Somebody who was talking about struggling with launching their business.
hmm
So hopefully, just even if there's one thing that you could take away today, then my job is done. If there's one thing that's going to
fantastic.
help you.
And on that note, as you know, we're getting ready. Everybody, thank you so very much. Shout out to everybody that showed up. Trey, anybody named that I did not call, please know that it wasn't because I didn't see you. It was because of the interview. Meaty, salute. Moonlight, I think I hit you already. Trey, I saw Bucks Over Fame came in. I saw I believe I saw Asatar Ass was here. My beautiful niece, Miss Coco BX. JeNae, I love you guys. I saw Real Chase Bank. I saw Dark Star, some of my gamers. And everybody, they flip phone salute. Everybody, they have been dropping your links. Please go and sign up to these individuals. Cookie's World Tarot. I don't know if they dropped her link, but please go sign up to Cookie. My beautiful niece, Awesome Powers. Glad to see you. And again, Matt K, you know I love you. And on that note, I want to say thank you, everybody. And we're getting ready to leave the Tiger's Den. Okay, if I hit the right button, we will. JeNae, hold on one moment for me.
I'm holding.
This video was made for education and entertainment purposes only. There's no malice or ill intent from the content creator. So please like, share, and subscribe, and have a great evening. Good night.